ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download.
Check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, The Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the day and week for the Breakfast Bankroll. Today, of course, with Mr. Matthew George, live from NYC. Go follow him at MG28 Sports, and of course at the Sports Grid itself. And hopefully around 11:30ish, the Philly Godfather back with ECSI, talking about his new book, talking about some Philly sports. Eagles, Phillies. If he wants to talk the Flyers, we can talk the Flyers. So hoping to have him on at 11:30. But first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download that app. It is free. And of course, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Steaks, chops, seafood, appetizers, wines, he's got it all. Just set it and forget it. AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Headline today: did the Mavs and Cooper get flagged by Bronny? Let's ask Matthew George. What's up, Matthew?
Good morning, Jeff. How are we doing?
We're doing well. First thoughts: you saw the man, the myth, the legend, generational talent. What'd you think?
So he looks good. It's just a matter of him getting his shots. And I did say that yesterday. He did get his shots, but it was a little bit inefficient. 5 of 21 from the field and only 10 points. But he did. I did see yesterday he would get six rebounds and 4 assists, and that hit last night. The only thing that missed out was that he got less than 15 points. So he did do really well on both ends of the floor. Not to mention he also got 3 steals in the block. So he showed everything that he needed to do on the floor. So it's a great first step, and I think it's only going to go forward for him, for Cooper Flag. So it's a great thing. It's a good sign. It's just a matter of just getting more efficient on the floor.
You know, go back a handful of years ago, Wemby, the next coming. You know, to me, he looks like Ralph Sampson. That's what he looks like to me. Cooper Flag, 17, 18 years old. His shoulders, this kid is going to be a monster when he fills out. I'm going to ask you a tough question here, I think. You're a GM, you're an owner. Today, starting today, you had a choice of Wemby or Cooper Flag as your #1 pick. Who are you taking?
Oh boy, that's a very tough question, and I take the upside with Wemby, at least for now, because the way that he's been able to develop himself. Obviously, this is two very different players and how they stack themselves up. Wemby can be he was already destined for defensive player of the year last season before going down with that injury. So he can just be he's already been talks about him and SGA being the faces of the league and Anthony Edwards. So I agree with that sentiment as well, being as it may that these young players, including Victor Wembanyama, including Cooper Flight, that is coming up as well, that these guys can be generational talents. But I think that Victor Wembanyama has too much of an upside to pass on. So he's able to shoot the ball at will. He's able to block shots like nobody's business. Not to mention this guy is freaking 7'4", for God's sake. So you rarely see guys that are 7 foot that are very lanky but still could put a lot of mass and muscle and still be able to dominate on the floor. The only person that we really seen that it was not 7 foot is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and he's been an MVP and won a championship. I wouldn't see him in the next year or two, maybe, or even like the next couple of years, that Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs actually win a championship again for this franchise.
Looking, it's kind of funny. I guess when people copy you, it's a sign of flattery. Look at the Celtics. Look at the championship. Hey, we're gonna pay Jaylen Brown. We're gonna pay Jason Tatum. Why not pay Derek White? Why not pay Drew Holiday? We had you on yesterday, and OKC said, no, we're not done. Jalen Williams, 5-year extension, $287 million. So I think between their big three now, it's like $800 million. They got their big three signed. We're talking second apron. This is Golden State Warrior territory.
Yeah, and this is how they're gonna do it, because you got to solidify these guys now, or it's game over for OKC. Obviously, not saying game over in terms of their franchise, but just the way that these guys are going to ask for their money because they're already at the end of their contracts, and they deserve it because they've collectively, these three guys have won the championship. So getting Jalen Brown, Jalen Williams on that rookie max extension, it makes sense because you want to keep this trio as long as possible, barring any injuries, especially with Chet Hunger with his injuries. You know, we think that everything will go well with OKC, and I think so as well. This trio can be the next big dynasty that could come up for the next couple of years in the NBA. It's just a matter of how they can consistently continue to do that, and for the rest of the year. They got this championship now. Can they keep it going? Well, only time will tell.
Well, Matthew, 7 years in a row, there's been a different champion. There's been no back to backs. Every time we won a crown, here comes a dynasty, whether it was Giannis, whether it was the Celtics. Now here comes OKC. It's just not happening. And that West is so stacked. Uh, I don't see it happening. I'm not saying OKC's not good. No. I'm not saying it. I knew the Celtics championship, there should have been an asterisk. I say it all the time. Giannis was hurt, Embiid was hurt, Butler was hurt. They just went through it paper machete in the East, and then the number 5 seed Dallas. And by the time they got to game 3 and 4, Luka couldn't even bend over and tie his shoe. And,
Sure.
and so now here comes an OKC who's going to be the prohibitive favorite. The
Mhm.
East is in shambles. No Halliburton, no Tatum. So it's the West, and I love what the Rockets have done. There's a handful of teams out there that are just chomping at the bit. Talk about the Spurs. Talk about Memphis, the old timers, Lakers, Clippers, Phoenix. I mean, it's going to be a gauntlet to get out of the West this year, Matthew.
It's going to be a fight it's going to be the fight to actually make the number one seed. Let's put it that way, Jeff, because I think that this is going to be the big test for the Western Conference to see who comes out on top. Because obviously, as you mentioned, I don't think there's any top. Maybe the Cavs and the Knicks can be in that mix of the top teams in the NBA, along with the stackness of the Western Conference. I don't think they even crack maybe top 10, maybe top 15 with the way that these teams are stacking up in the Western Conference. So I still believe in that trend as well, that you know there's going to be another different team that wins the Eastern Conference Finals, and wins the NBA title, because I think that trend keeps going with another different team that wins. Now I heard there was a I think I heard like a podcast or something about a sports podcast recently, where Western Conference, where a team that makes the Western Conference Finals wins the or makes the Eastern Conference or Western Conference Finals, makes it to the NBA championship. Who's next on the docket? Oh boy, look out! It might be the New York Knicks, because they made the Eastern Conference Finals, and they could be a big asterisk in saying, "Hey, we're not done yet," and this team can definitely be on the uprise to compete for a title. This is the year for the Knicks to try to do that, because their only competition right now, probably the Pistons, but the biggest one, obviously, as we know, is the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Any chance Miami or Milwaukee makes some moves? I mean, we already saw Milwaukee make some moves. Hey, listen, we go back a handful of months ago. Giannis was going to management and saying he's wanting out. Was he going to Miami? Was he going out west? Now with the injuries, Tatum, Halliburton, now they bring in, was it Miles Turner? And,
Yes.
and so now, listen, the Bucks could be problems this year.
The problem is that they don't have a solidified point guard. So you don't have Damian Lillard. You bought him out with his contract. So
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be the biggest question of like who's going to be the ball handler for this team. Yeah, you have Giannis, and you have the big dynamic duo of Giannis and Miles Turner, but who's going to bring up the ball? Who's going to be the one that can solidify and could be a floor general on the offense, or be a good scorer on the offense? And that was Damian Lillard for the past couple of years, and that didn't seem to pan out. So now you got to find a way for Milwaukee to be actually a good team, and I think they still are. But it's just a matter of they need that guard position solidified. Other than that, it's going to be a very topsy turvy kind of way for the season for the Bucks. I mean, do you want Giannis bringing up the ball every time? He could do it. It's just that you could tire him out for the rest of the season.
Couple other headliners I'm going to throw at you before we break down tonight's games that you have on the docket. Herb Jones 3-year extension, 68 million with the Pelicans. Players to look out today in the summer league. You had Heat, Kasparis. Uh, I'll leave that one for you. Wizards, Trey Johnson, and of course the Las Vegas Aces have lost against the Mystics. And you have a little play there. But any other nuggets you want to go to before we start to break down some games?
Yeah, Herb Jones. It's a very interesting one, because this team is still on the uprising. I'm trying to develop these young players, like not to mention they also drafted Derek Queen. So let's see how that goes. Herb Jones is obviously one of the better perimeter defenders in the league, and not to mention he's a good 3-point shooter. So I think just probably solidifying him is a decent move. But we'll see how the Pelicans do overall this upcoming season. Again, as Jeff mentioned, players to look out for in this tonight's summer league is the Heat's draft pick in Kasper's Jaco Jonas. He's a very good elite. I think he's a very elite player, especially coming out of Illinois. He's been a very. I think he's going to have a solidifying game tonight. I believe that could be the case against the Hawks today. On the other side, we have Trey Johnson. I think he's got to show what he can do if he wants his spot in this very, very young team in the Wizards. Because, I mean, obviously the Wizards are just trying to figure out what they can do with all of their young players as well. So you obviously still have to figure out what you can do with everyone on that team. So they're facing the Suns tonight. We'll see how that happens. Washington is also a 7.5-point favorite. So look for them to take the win, and also have for Shane Johnson to have a good game as well. Lastly, I mentioned this yesterday, and I don't understand what's going on with the Aces. But then again, we also understand that Aja Wilson is also going to be out. She was out for this last game. It doesn't seem good for the Aces. Obviously, they now are in 11th place, or I'm sorry, they are ninth place right now in the league right now. So it's looking all over the place for the Aces. I think they should probably just throw in the towel. Obviously, wins are wins, and you got to try to win in every game possible. I understand that, but with the way that this team is so far throughout the season, and we're approaching the All-Star break, it doesn't look good. So take the Aces, I would say, in my opinion, take the Aces minus 104 under 22.5 wins because it's probably going to be ugly throughout the rest of the season unless they've tried to figure something out with this Ford lineup of Jewel Lloyd, Chelsea Gray, and Aja Wilson and all these players. So it's a topsy turvy team for the Aces. On the other side, though, it's I mean, what a win by the Mystics. So they're 10-10, and they're also a high rise team coming into the playoffs. So we'll see how they do, especially with their young players, like I mentioned, with Kiki Iriafen and Sonia Citron, and not to mention with Sykes. I mean, this is a very upcoming team, and the Washington should be very proud of what they're doing so far this season.
Two games on the docket tonight. Atlanta travels to Indiana. Connecticut then travels to Seattle. Atlanta, Indiana, overnight. Indiana minus 2.5 with a 163 and a hook. Now 1.5 Indiana with a 167. And listen, I was born at night, not last night. This is screaming Atlanta to me. What the hell's going on with Indiana tonight?
Yeah, it's because Caitlin Clark had to come back from injuries, so she only scored 10 points, which isn't that efficient. Not to mention she also had 4 turnovers in the last game, so it's kind of hopefully she gets back into the mix tonight. So that's why I'm going with her tonight. But it's gonna be I don't usually do these kind of things, but this is going to be how she could solidify herself again for people to watch her. So we're going to take Caitlin Clark over 4.5 points in the first quarter. It's going to be it's a very interesting prop. Obviously, you can't put this in the SGP, but try to see if you can get some value out of this. I don't know how much the prop has probably moved since I got it last night at minus 120, but this is very interesting for Caitlin Clark because they need this game tonight, especially against a great team in the Atlanta Dream, who last season was, not really that good, but now everything has been, they work together really well. The 1-2 punch of Alicia Gray, as you see there, with 4+ assists, and Ryan Howard have been dynamic. So we're going to take Alicia Gray with 4+ assists at minus 108 because she's gotten that number 5 out of the last 6 games, including 4 straight with 4+ assists. So she's been dishing the ball like crazy, and it doesn't matter, and it wouldn't surprise me that she hits that number again today.
The other game on the docket, Connecticut at Seattle, opened at 16.5 with a 158.5. Money came in on the under. It's now 156.5, but now is ballooned to 18.5 at the Circa.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know that the Sun is is basically the worst team in the WNBA. Sad to say because Tina Charles and Derica Hamby have been good players, but I mean they need to find better homes. I mean that team just blew up because like losing everyone on that team has just been a really bad scent for the Connecticut Sun. So we're taking 2 players. They're taking the 2-star players of the Seattle Storm and Skylar Diggins and Eureka Nwunike. So we're 6+6 with Skylar Diggins because she's gotten that number 7 out of the last 9 games with 6+ assists. Not to mention, I think in the span she's also gotten 6+ assists straight up with 4 straight games. And then Neka Nwunike with 6+ rebounds. It is heavily juiced at minus 355. So do parlay this because I got this at a plus 117. You get some value out of it because she's gotten the number 7 out of the last 8 games, including 4 straight with 6+ rebounds. So it's not surprising that these two players for the Seattle Storm have made an impact. Not to mention that they're right in the mix with the Atlanta Dream and this very surprising Golden State Valkyries in 5th place in the standings for the WNBA. So this is a very good team, and I think that it's only going to be up and coming for the Storm coming up this season. I mean they could probably bounce over the Sun tonight, so it wouldn't be surprising to me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in Las Vegas tonight. Starting at 4 o'clock this afternoon, Memphis, Boston, Atlanta, Miami. Your Knicks faced in Detroit. Good game there. Utah, Charlotte, Chicago, Toronto, Washington, Phoenix, the Clippers in Houston. That'll be a fun one. And Portland, Golden State. Where is Matthew George's eyes?
Yeah, I think the first one is gonna. I think the only way that you can solidify Heat culture, like you mentioned, is developing these players. Because at this point, Khalil Ware, I think tonight is gonna have a good defensive game. So hopefully, look for him to get a double double. And then also, like I mentioned, Casper Jakushonis, their draft pick from this season, this hopefully has a good shooting game. I think hopefully he can stretch I think he has a good chance of stretching the floor for Miami for this upcoming season. So look for him to get some shots up from the 3-point line tonight.
What's the weekend look like, Matthew?
Well, we got a lot to come up as well. We have make sure to tune into betting above the rim pro basketball today with Kevin Walsh and Coach James Young, as they're going to be breaking down more generally what's happened throughout this week with NBA free agency and the WNBA, as is about to be the All-Star break as well. And then make sure to tune in as well, because this is going to be the time for for more moves this for the off season of the NBA. And then next week we also have the WNBA All-Star game. So everyone's been solidified with Caitlin Clark and Nafish Collier making their selections for their teams. Is going to be a very fun and very interesting way of how the All-Star game goes. And then we'll see how Caitlin Clark does over the weekend, because this is the time for the Fever to make a run, because at the end of the day, they've been either they're struggling or they've just been not doing well throughout this season. It's just been a mixed bag of nuts for the Fever, because the high expectation was for Caitlin Clark to actually be, the face of the league. She is, but it's just a matter of it's being very polarizing to say that she's been a little inconsistent and then not solidifying wins for the team. So not to mention they are also one game under 500. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how the rest of the season goes for Caitlin Clark and the Fever.
Well, next week, I mean, think about it this way. From a sports standpoint, Monday night home run derby, Tuesday all-star baseball game. You talk about the WNBA all-star game. We'll have a break. I'll be doing some CFL action here with Andrew. But my point is, next week, Monday through Friday, is quote-unquote the slowest week of the year. Once we muscle through next week, we're in like Flynn, Matthew.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Watch for Aaron Judge. We got to keep the go. Hopefully, Aaron Judge keeps it going, as he is probably in the race for the Triple Crown. It's just a matter of how he can keep it going, because him and Cal Riley are in the race for 60 home runs. Although I think Cal Riley might be a little bit inflated, but we'll see how it does with the rest of the season for the Mariners. But I'm only saying this because Yankees have been somewhat a little bit on the mix lately, but we'll see how the Yankees do the rest of the season as the All-Star break comes through next week.
All right, Matthew, have a great weekend. We'll catch up with you at the beginning of the week. We're going to go to a quick couple commercial breaks. When we come back, the Godfather himself, Mr. Philly Godfather. Stay tuned. ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download. Well, it's been a while. I will say that. And well, hopefully this fall it's not going to be that way. We're going to hope to bring this gentleman on regularly, maybe every other week. That's the plan. So we'll see. He's got busy schedules here. I might have to go to a secretary, to an agent, to back to a secretary trying to get this gentleman on. The one and only Mr. Philly Godfather.
Oh man, thanks for having me on. It's been a crazy year, busy with the book taking off. We debuted #1 on Amazon. Organized crime, top 50 white collar crime. A lot of crime going on in this book. So a lot of sports betting, a lot of old stories. The way things were back in the late 80s, early 90s, things were a little different back then.
Well, let's stay on the book here. Amazon, tell them the name, where they can find it, and I assume you have it right there. There it is. Talk about it, how it came about, and here we are right now. Presto magic.
Yeah, about 2 years ago. Well, actually, let me start from the beginning. About 5 years ago, we wrote a screenplay, and I teamed up with an old friend of mine, Greg Lingo, who produced, written, directed The Last Call. Movie had Jeremy Piven in it, Bruce Dern, a bunch of big actors. Did okay. A kid, guy I grew up with. We played sports in the '70s. We played baseball together, basketball. He was a much better athlete than me. He went on to Cornell, played football and baseball at Cornell. And when he came back, he started a little construction company that blew up, became one of the biggest builders on the East Coast. And then he decided to do that movie back in 2019, 2020. And then he was hearing all the buzz about me, and he reached out to me. He said, Steve, I want to do the movie with you. And I started thinking about it, and he was a person that I trusted, someone that I knew. So we started writing the screenplay. So we got that out the way. And then I talked to a lot of people in Hollywood I'm friends with. One of them is Jamie Gold. You guys know him as the professional poker player, won $12 million. But he was actually an agent in Hollywood for 25 years. He had Jimmy Fallon, James Gandolfini under him. He had a bunch of the biggest names in Hollywood. And he told me, Steve, before you do anything, he goes, write the book, own your IP, own your intellectual property. This way they can never change the story. They can never screw it up. So that's when we went, got down to business. We started writing the book a couple of years ago, and we finished it up. I really didn't know what to expect. I never wrote a book before. I went to ninth grade, had my son help me co-write the book, Matteo Maltepis. And we put it out there, and next thing you know, people are loving it. People are talking about it, sending me DMs. So many people are connected to the book. There's, so many different chapters, whether it was about my father when he passed away from pancreatic cancer, or me and my wife staying together for 32 years, raising two beautiful kids. Other people love the sports betting side of the book. But everyone keeps telling me they wanted more. They want to know more about the story. They want to, are you writing another book now? I'm like, I didn't even finish writing the first book now. So people love the book. It's taken off. We sold over 8,000 copies in the first 2 months, which is crazy. I never expected to sell 500 copies, to tell you the truth. We're doing really well on Amazon. And we also have it at my website, phillybooked.com. You can pick it up at phillybooked.com. If you buy it there, I'll autograph it for you before I ship it out to you. On Amazon, ship to order. So if you buy it there, it's going to be sent out the next day, but it won't be autographed. So it basically entails the life, my life. Growing up, my parents came over from Greece in 1969. 3 kids, $200 in their pocket, and failure wasn't an option. And the struggles and the sacrifices we had to go through in the early 70s. And then my short stint in the hot dog cart with my father, a little hot dog cart in Philly selling hot dogs, sausages, and meatballs. And I was in there at the age of 8. He would leave me there by myself, and I was in there working. And, you learn a lot in that hot dog cart. It was a great education. Then around the age of 18, a good friend of mine, Rooster, he kept bugging me for bookmakers. And this, you got to remember, this is back in 1988. And I'm like, what do you want bookmakers for? He goes, we're getting some games from, some sharp guys out on the West Coast, and they don't lose. And I'm like, what do you mean they don't lose? Back then everyone thought you couldn't beat the market. So I said, all right, here's a couple bookmakers. And next thing you know, I'm in an office with 40 guys, me, Rooster, Jimmy Batista, my buddy who was paying off Timmy Dunahee, the NBA ref, and a bunch of other guys, John Machinardo, Joe V. They were the 2 biggest bookmakers maybe in the world back then, And the offshore would have never existed without Joe V. People don't know this, but he had a piece of every sports book down there. And when they got in trouble, they went to Joe to borrow money. So he really was the big financial backbone of the offshore market for years. No one really talks about it, but yeah, these guys were innovators. They're one of the first, and started betting games, started moving games. Back then, I was a mover, and the deal basically was, if they won 10 grand at the end of the week, we would get 20% of the work off. So we'd win 2,000, and if we lost, we'd have to work it off before we got paid. But I knew even back then that job had an expiration date. So, as a mover, if you can't find more bookmakers, because people were dropping us left and right, you're crushing bookmakers. Next thing you know, you own half of their book with them, or they're dropping you, or you're bankrupting them. And you got to remember, information wasn't around back then. The internet wasn't around. So, if we laid 6 on the game, and New York went to 6.5 or 7, well, it took another 4 or 5 hours for Philly to move that line, and all the bookmakers in Philly. And even before Don Best, and actually Don Best was started with one of our guys in the group, Al Corbo, started Don Best. I don't know if you guys know that. But even before Don Best, even if we didn't get all the sharp moves that day, all you had to do was call your bookmakers in New York and get a rundown. And you would see the line changes because, all those guys bet New York first. So then you could go hit the streets in Philly. So New York was kind of like our Don Best back then. You saw the lines move. But like I said earlier, I knew that job had an expiration date as a mover, because if you can't get more bookmakers, well, then you're out of business. Then they don't need you no more. So what I started to do is I started to reverse engineer the games they were sending me, trying to figure out why they're betting these games. Mm-hmm. And then eventually I got good enough, and my games were matching up. And actually, I think I got sharper than they were. And in 96, I think it was, or 97, me and Sheep and a couple other guys, we moved out of that office and started our own office. And I've been betting sports ever since. So it kind of details that a little bit. But the other business I was in, which was the marijuana business, now it's legal. Now it's fashionable. Now everybody wants a dispensary. But back then, sports betting marijuana was taboo. And they looked at me like I was some kind of gangster. But I was just, good at what I did. I wasn't in a mob. I wasn't, I knew a lot of people, but, I'm a Greek kid from the street. 9th grade education, just trying to raise a family, trying to earn, trying to make some money. And the book details all that. And I really wanted, when I wrote the book, I wanted you to, when you read it, to feel like you're in that seat next to me on this roller coaster, life that I've had. Ups and downs, trials and tribulations. I got jammed up with the law a couple of times, went to trial, lost, sat in Arizona prison for 2 years with mass murderers. And it was a max prison, 23-hour lockdown. And by the grace of God, 2 years later, I overturned my conviction. I was exonerated by, of all those charges, and I was released. No parole, no time to walk off. I was a free man. I had, I came back home, and I had to get my life back in order after that. And then I got back into sports betting really heavy, left the marijuana stuff alone. And in 2012, I launched my website, PhillyGodfather.com. And then that took off. And then by 2014, 15, I was doing the biggest shows in the world, not just, I've done overseas, Arcade News. I've done stuff in Greece and Spain. I've done stuff in Toronto, all over the United States, Fox Business, Fox News. You name the show I've done. I've done stuff with Clay Travis. It's been a wild ride, man. And it's something, when I talk about it, people find it hard to believe. You start from here and you end up here. So I added a lot of pictures in the book. So when you read a chapter, you see a book that matches up with what you're reading. You're like, wow. And then if you just Google it, it really happened. So it's kind of like Slumdog Millionaire, True Romance, and Forrest Gump kind of put together the book. So that's pretty big. I think that kind of explains the book really well.
We crossed paths 2 years ago, Las Vegas, Radio Row, the Super Bowl there. It was so great. You came over to us, me, you, and Anthony talked for a long time like we were lost brothers from the same mother, and we just clicked, brought you on for a couple spots. You've come on here a few times, and we're hoping again this fall we can connect through your busy schedule, your book and Netflix and everything else, to bring you on at least maybe a couple times a month. My question to you to start right here is, I'm about 45 minutes an hour, let's say, from the North End in Boston. I've been worked with them forever. They saved my life, and that's for a whole nother book here. We've seen the legalization of sports betting. PASPA passed and overturned in 18, we see where we are today now. I said a few years ago, it's just going to all circle back. Last man standing where it started, Vegas. It looks like it will be DraftKings, FanDuel, maybe BetMGM, Caesars, Underdog, Prize Picks will be long gone. And now we're back to across the pond, the Bovadas of the world, the five that. Am I correct in saying we're not that far away from going back to the old school North End, the barber shop, and the hell with the rest of this nonsense here?
Well, it depends what type of bettor you are, right? If you're the average guy and you watch TV and you're saturated with all the ads and the boosts and the same game parlays, and they precondition you and they brainwash you, and it's a lot easier just to deposit with DraftKings and not meet a guy every week, and you don't need an agent and you don't need a IP changer to bet with some offshore spots. But again, it's tax money. You're dealing with the government, and they have control. They want total control. And you see with this new tax bill, that's what they're trying to do. Just track everything. But it's going to be hard to go back. Once prices go up, they never go down. So once things start going a certain way, and the government keeps getting that money, and still hasn't been legalized in California and a couple other states. So when they get all that tax revenue, it's going to be hard to go back. As a sharp bettor, whether you're on the JV team, the varsity squad, or you're like, Billy Walters, the best of the best, you're going to find a way. It's like the Marines. When you're a sports bettor, by all means necessary, they talk about the new tax and this and that. Well, you better go get a good account. And that's the bottom line. And that's what it comes down to. It's all about the number. At face value, the new tax looks like it's going to bury everyone, but it's not. I mean, you find a way. And if your edge is big enough, you're not worried about it. But it could open other doors. I mean, we could be, in Pennsylvania in 4 or 5 years, and you might be able to bet it with a book out in Colorado that isn't available in Pennsylvania. So you might have interstate betting. Now if you live in Pennsylvania, you can only bet in Pennsylvania. But the way technology is, man, it's kind of scary because the next 5-7 years, they could shut down all the offshore books. I mean, they could, run a program online or some software where you can't even log into them, no matter what your, IP changer is. So, I don't know. To predict where we're going to be in 5 to 7 years, I'm not sure. I don't think it's going to be much different, to tell you the truth. And the offshore is going to be there. The on-screen markets are going to just get bigger and bigger. And with the oversaturation of recreational money with DraftKings, FanDuel, and BetMGM, they don't really need sharp money anymore. No. To shape the number, they don't need us. What do they need us for? And the biggest margin they have is on parlays. Everyone's betting these parlays, thinking they're going to get rich. It's kind of like a lottery ticket, really. And they don't need us no more. So, I hear a lot of sharp guys, semi-sharp guys say, "Oh, well, they need sharp money to shape it." No, they don't. They don't need us. If it was up to them, they'd make the NFL 120 both sides, and then you can't beat the market, or you got to be really lucky, or you got to be, part of the 1% of the 1% of the 1% that wins long term. So, to try to predict where we're going to be at in the future, there's so much technology coming out. I mean, Elon Musk is, the Neuralink. There's so many things that we're moving so fast, and anytime you're trying to make an educated guess, you only have a certain amount of information to base that guess on. And me and you and 99% of the people, we don't have all the information, right now to come out with a weighted opinion about where we're going to be in the next 5 to 7 years.
You're known as the originator. I follow you like clockwork. Love all your work. You're in the city of defending NFL Super Bowl champs. You got Rocky. You got the Phillies. How you feeling with the Phillies right now? And of course, we're getting ready for OTAs with the Eagles.
I feel good about the Phillies. I got futures on the Phillies and the Tigers before the season started. 11-1 on the Phillies and 30-1 on the Tigers. I feel great about the Tigers. The Phillies need a closer, but they're still battle tested. If they get hot, they can beat anybody. But they definitely need a closer. Now they have so many good starting pitching that they can move some of those guys in the middle relief come to playoff times. And if you want to get a little crazy and make Suarez your closer, I mean, he's the calmest, coolest pitcher in the world. I mean, he's got the lowest heart rate. But I definitely think they need a closer. If they get a closer, they can probably beat the Dodgers and get there. But I really think they're going to play the Tigers in the World Series. I took the 11-1 on the Phillies. Right now, you got to lay 11-1 for them to make the playoffs. So it's a great bet. They're definitely going to make the playoffs. They got the third best road record, I think, in the entire league. It's the Tigers, the Cubs, and then the Phillies. So teams that win on the road are usually better than the teams that are better. You got to go on the road and you got to win. So Yankees battle tested. The Blue Jays have been playing lights out. I think they started the season like 16-20, and now they're in first place. But I can see them regressing. It's a long season. The cream always rises to the top, even though they're a pretty good team. I still think the Yankees are the cream of the AL East. The Tigers, and the Astros. That team is just everyone hates the Astros, and they just keep winning. In the NL, it's the Dodgers and the Cubs. Listen, if the Cubs go out and make the right moves before the trade deadline, who's got a better run differential than they do this year? Their offense is unreal. So they're a dangerous team. I bet two futures in baseball, division winners. One was the Cubs. I took plus 140. I actually took plus 270 before the season started on the Tigers. And now you got to lay like 3,500 for them to win the division. So they were two good bets. But yeah, I feel strong about the Phillies. The bats are there. They've been there. Bryce Harper, when he gets hot, oh my God, he's so dangerous. Wheeler, Cy Young, who's better than him this year? If they can stay healthy and if they go out and get a closer like they did in 2008 when they went out and got Brad Lidge and they won the World Series, this is a very dangerous team.
Well, my Red Sox, I think, have now won 7 in a row. Bregman comes back tonight. They've been in this spot 3 years in a row, and they haven't moved any pieces. If you need a closer, tell Mr. Dombrowski we got the number one closer that you would want, and that's Mr. Chapman. He's having his best year ever. And when we signed him for $11 million, everyone laughed. I'm like, oh, I don't need Philly. This kid has been lights out this year.
Let's go get him, man. I'll trade Painter. Give him that prospect we got. He's supposed to, prospects are prospects. I want to win right now. Get Painter. We'll give you someone else. Make it happen. But yeah, the Phillies are on the doorstep, man. And 11-1, I thought they were great odds before the season started. The Mets are pretty good. Brewers are, they're feisty. Tampa Bay, I took them plus 150 to make the playoffs, maybe like a month ago. So they're in the mix. But Detroit is just, that team is, you're expecting them to regress a little bit. It's hard to win more than 60% of your games over the entire season. And this team is built for it. I think they're going to win over 60% of the ball games this year.
Was it 84, 85 Tigers when they started the year 35-5, and then they went 500 the rest of the way, and then they win it all. They got Cy Skubal, so try to beat him twice in a 7-game series. Eagles. Listen, the tush push is back. Going to be tough for Barkley to duplicate what he did. We know you got Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Goddard. You got a Georgia defense second to none. NFC East, listen, Washington can regress. Let's just say this. I'm not going to say Jaden Daniels will be RG3 this year, but take yourself back a year ago when C.J. Stroud was God and he regressed. Everyone's saying the same thing about Bo Nix. He's going to make the next step. Second-year quarterbacks tend to regress. There's that team in Dallas that has egg on their face after last year's performance. Are you more worried? Actually, give us the thoughts on the Eagles before we get to OTAs. But are you more worried with Washington or Dallas this year as well?
I'm still worried about Washington. Man. That kid, I love that kid coming out of college. I had him to win the Heisman. I had him to win Offensive Player of the Year. They secured their offensive line, got a little stronger. And the only time he played bad last year was when he was banged up. That kid's got that X factor. Like Mahomes does, like certain, quarterbacks in the league do. Now, he's not Mahomes, obviously, but, they got that resiliency that, they don't want to lose. And they went up against a great Eagles team last year that played smash mouth, old school football, and they were hard to beat. They didn't turn the ball over. But they kind of scare me a little bit. And when it comes to the Eagles this year, the first half of their schedule, it's kind of easy, other than those two. I think they got 2 road games against Kansas City and Tampa Bay, which, it's tough winning there. But the second half of the schedule, it's kind of rough. They play the Packers, the Lions, the Chargers, who are going to be much better this season, and they were good last year. And then they got to go at Dallas, and then they finish with 2 games against the Commanders. And I think the last game of the season, or Week 16, they play the Bills. So for them to go over their season win total of 11.5, it's not going to be easy. I mean, I can see 11 losses on their schedule. They got a target on their back. They got a first-place schedule. They lost a bunch of guys on defense. They lost their defensive tackle, Williams, their edge rusher, Josh Sweat. They lost their corner, Isaiah Rodgers, linebacker. They lost CJ, who was a ball hawk. Darius Slay's gone. Who else? Brandon Graham retired. So they lost a lot of meat in that defense. So they're going to have a younger defense this year. And we saw how well they played in the playoffs and, against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And I caught a lot of slack in that Super Bowl when I was telling everyone the Eagles were going to dismantle the Chiefs, but kind of worked out for me. So Eagles still the cream of the crop. They're still the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. Still the odds-on favorite to win the NFC East and the conference. But if Dallas gets better, shows that they can win 10, 11 games this season, and the Commanders stay where they're at, it's going to be a much tougher road for the Philadelphia Eagles this season.
If I remember correctly on your timeline, you're already in on the Bills. Is that correct?
Yeah, I love the Bills this season, man. I went over 11.5 wins. I took them plus 700 to win the Super Bowl. I think they are favored in every single game this season so far, but that could change during the regular season. Their 4 toughest games are going to be against the Ravens, Chiefs, the Eagles, and Bengals. But other than that, I mean, if they go 50-50 in those 2 games, this team could win 14, 15 games on the season. That's how good they are. Let me turn that off. I nibbled on them at minus 240 and minus 250 to win the AFC East. I think that's stealing money. Who's going to win that division other than them? Love Josh Allen. AFC West, I mean, they're going to kill each other. Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs. Like the Bills a lot this season.
I like where your eyes are there. The Pats Nation drinking the Kool-Aid. They've won 4 games at home the last 3 years combined, yet they're going to go 7-1 at home. They're going to win double-digit games. I mean, hey, listen, I like where they're heading. I hope Drake May is that guy. I hope he doesn't turn out to be, another UNC quarterback that didn't work out too well from Chicago. Love the coach, love Vrabel. Love the culture, but I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid just yet, Mr. Philly.
Yeah, I mean, what's their season win total? 7.5. They might be able to get to 8 if the ball bounces their way. They got great coaching. Like you said, if the quarterback doesn't regress. And I love their coach, man. I mean, second half adjustments. Who's better than him? If you look at his numbers, just get some time one day and look at his numbers through all the games. And he's one of the best second half coaches in the NFL. So you guys got a really good, solid pickup there. So they're definitely going to get much better.
Well, tell everyone, A, where they can get the book, B, your website, and C, anything else that you want to do.
Yeah, you can stop by phillybooked.com to pick up the book. You go to Amazon, pick it up there. It's also at Barnes & Noble. The book's called Booked, Booked. So you can pick it up there. Stop by the website, thephillygodfather.com. I'm releasing all my information there. I got my whole crew down there. $3 a day. You can't beat it. You can follow us on X. I mean, I think I give out more plays on X for free than I do at the website Premium Move. So you can follow me on X at Philly Godfather. And we got a big thing we're working on with a few different streaming networks. Now they're starting to bid. So we might have a show on one of the big streaming networks soon. And that's about it, man. You know what? Have you ever been to Buca's up there in Chatham, Mass, the Italian restaurant?
Mm-hmm. I'm about a half hour from there.
Oh, my God. That's the best Italian restaurant I've ever been to. I'm going back up. I went up in June, and I'm going back up probably in a week or two to spend a couple of days up there. I love Chatham, Massachusetts.
Yeah, my daughter was actually working at the Chatham Bars Inn for the this past fall, and my brother, my chef brother, worked at the Chatham Squire for a long, long time. He started at Alberto's in Hyannis. If you're in Hyannis looking for some fine Italian, go to Alberto's downtown Hyannis. But yeah, make sure you hit me up when you're on the Cape the next couple of weeks.
Well, dinner's on me, man. Definitely. You got it.
All right, so go follow Steve at Philly Godfather. 3 o'clock, myself and Scotty Webb will be back for the closing bell MLB Friday Night Bright Lights. Want to shout out Matthew George. Thank you guys so much. It's been a great, great week. We'll be back at 3 and stay tuned.